Do you ever just miss stuff? Sometimes my wife and I will be watching the same movie or we go to the same party and we'll talk about it afterwards and we can hardly recognize that we're both at the same place at the same time. Now, it's not that either one of us are wrong, it's just she picks up on some things and I pick up on other things and we compare notes. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? When you compare notes with other people, you sometimes discover there's just all kinds of stuff going on that went right by you. Sometimes that's just because we're limited. We can't do anything about that. It's okay. We're people. We miss stuff. We get a little bit preoccupied or whatever. That's perfectly normal and that's perfectly healthy. It's absolutely no problem. Now, the problem is, though, that when we don't see things that everybody else sees, and it's hurtful. It's hurtful to other people or it's hurtful to us. Viktor Frankl, the father of logotherapy, one of the three sources of modern psychotherapy, he used to say, there's a moment between experiencing and reacting in which we can choose what we're going to do. We call that moment freedom. When our spiritual eye is healthy and we're seeing what's there, even if we're not seeing everything, we can find that moment when we need it and say to ourselves, oh, I tried that before with this person and it didn't work out so well, so that's not what I'm going to do now. It's that moment of freedom in which we can choose to do something that's more appropriate, something that actually might work. You know what I mean. Jesus talks to us about that because even 2,000 years ago, you see, there was this moment. It's called freedom. In the Sermon on the Mount, it's the same thing that we need to remember. And here it is from Matthew chapter 6, verses 22 and 23. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Now there's something to think about, is darkness. And in a sense, it comes from our own darkness, our own confusion. Sometimes these things are serious and really hard to do anything about, but mostly, what we really need is to talk to someone else, or perhaps take time to meditate, and between the two, we see things. God will show us things, because the Spirit of God moves in meditation. The Spirit of God moves between people. Here's a simple thing. It's an everyday thing, but you know our life is mostly everyday. And so getting the everyday things right is important. I was talking to a friend of mine, George. All my friends are named George when it comes to preaching. I was talking to this friend of mine, George, and he said he wasn't sure that if he'd ever get used to wearing one of these masks, it sort of felt weird. But he said his wife had made him this mask that he wears most of the time. I ran into him in the grocery store, and he had on his, and I had on mine. And he says, but I feel I'm kind of safe. It's kind of nice. See, my wife made it, and I think it's pretty good. Well, because he sounded a little bit confused about why wearing a mask was weird, but his wife made it, and he was clearly proud of it. I asked him, you said, sounds to me like you're a little bit surprised that you feel safe. Well, yeah, why should I feel safe? I know that this is better for other people than it is for me, and that if I was standing right next to, if as standing right next to you, or you had this COVID-19, I could easily get it even though I have this on. It's great to protect other people, but why would I feel safe knowing that about the mask? Oh, okay, said. I understand that. Um, you said that your wife made it. Says, yeah, the thing is that even though I feel a little weird wearing it, it reminds me of how much she loves me and how much I love her. And that's really nice. I said, so is a love somehow related to feeling safe? He thought for a moment, and then his eyes lit up and said, well, of course it does. You see, when I was a kid, my mother always made my lunch every day, had it in the same lunchbox. Mine had Superman on it most of the time, most years. And when I opened it up, I was in elementary school, and when I opened it up, there'd be a cookie in there or a brownie or maybe a really nice apple. And I'd look at that, and no matter what was going on in my day, I knew that my mother loved me. And so if I was having a good day, it was even better. And if I was having a tough day, I knew I could make it through because my mother loved me. Oh, I said, so the connection about being safe and love has to do with your mother's love, with your wife's love. You can manage whatever life throws at you. He said, that's just about right. And I thought, how wonderful. And he said, I'm going to the dollar store next. They've got a special on 9-volt batteries, and I need to replace all of them. All of my smoke alarms are going beep, beep. And so when I go there, they have a nice card selection. I'll just buy her a card. Just let her know that I was thinking about her and that I love her. When you're even a little part of something like that, of a husband remembering that his wife's love and how it makes him feel, and he wants to buy her card, that's a small thing, but it's a joy. And like I said, our life is mostly a collection of small things that are joys. So the next time you're confusing yourself, you might, I suggest that you pause and you just ask, Lord, what's the connection between this thought and that thought that I'm just missing? What's the connection? And hush up and let God show you. You'd be surprised at the wonderful things that God will bring to mind if you let Him. And if you see a friend, or if you can call a friend and chat with them, it just might make it clearer. Because in those moments of confusion, it's just like Viktor Frankl said, we have the opportunity to think about what our reactions are. And that's when we learn all kinds of stuff. And that's when we decide to do things like get a card for our spouse or see a friend. Oh, I'm looking forward to that being possible, aren't you? Oh, it'll come before long. So anyhow, I'm starting a new class on stress reduction. I call it Toolbox for Living. It'll be on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, and we're going to meet on Zoom. So just leave a message for me with Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, however I'm getting in touch with you with this video, and let me know, and I'd be glad to include you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And just remember, God created us for community, and when we confuse ourselves, chatting with each other is a beautiful thing.